We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
Like Vasquez said in Aliens, let's rock. If you're new to the tribe, we got Rad across the table. Rich is behind the mix. My name is Yanni Baumeister, and we are Unity Gym, experts at turning driven people into athletes. This episode is brought to you by the Unified Movement System, the only online program that balances strength, flexibility, and fitness in an efficient 60-minute workout so you can unleash your inner athlete. Get daily coaching by us, plus our epic gym and home UMS programs, extensive exercise library, private coaching group, and weekly coaching calls. As a valued listener, use the link in the description to get your first month free. Before we get started, a big warm welcome and shout out to everyone tuning in and watching on the Unity Gym YouTube channel. Remember to smash the crap out of that like button. The more likes we get, the more legends just like yourself get to see this content. And as always, subscribe if you like what you see. I'm super excited to announce that joining us today, we have Phil White from ADPT Physio.
And if you didn't know, Phil started work in the fitness industry in 2012, first as a remedial massage therapist, and then went on to study exercise and sports science and a doctor of physiotherapy postgraduate degree. Now he runs ADPT Physio, where they specialize in delivering the athlete rehab experience to everyone. Phil's been a massage therapist to the GWS Giants AFL team, Olympians, Paralympians, and a number of other professional athletes. Welcome to the show, bro.
Thanks, guys. Always great to be here.
Always good to have you here.
So today we are diving headfirst into a question, great question from Helen Madge from the UMS Online Coaching Group. Helen asked, does it make a difference if you split workouts up, i.e. 2 half-hour sessions versus 1 hour session? And is there an optimum workout length? This is a very good question. We're going to go around the table. We're going to get some insight from all of us, how we like to train, the results we get, and then get a little bit of the science to support what we're talking about too.
Sure. So if we're going to finish with the science, we probably should start with me.
The practice.
Yeah, the practice, yeah. Look, first things first, I'll say this really comes down to what you can afford to do, how much time you can afford to outlay. Because what I'm about to tell you, what works for me and what I do, most people their jaw would hit the floor if they tried to match my commitment to training. And funnily enough, this is how the UMS originally evolved, because when we first started the UMS, not really having any experience with doing online coaching and knowing what people could and couldn't do, I basically just wrote a program that was really good based on what I can do and what I do. And I'm not talking about skill level, I'm talking about time-wise. So I just wrote a program with the consideration of how much time I put into training. People loved it because it's phenomenal. But what we found very quickly is that the majority of people could not stick with it after the first month because it just took too long. Even if you really knew what you were doing and you just put the pedal to the metal, the workouts took 90 minutes, which meant that for most people who had to keep looking at the program card and go over to that bit of equipment, the workouts would take over 2 hours.
Yeah, one of the things that we need to take into consideration that we didn't is that we've built a gym on the efficiency model so that everything is exactly where we need it to be to do our workouts, whereas most people in a big gym don't have that luxury.
Yeah, but that said, the way that we've done the new UMS workouts, it is a lot more in alignment with that.
100%.
And so what we did was we went back and completely rebuilt the UMS gym workouts and the UMS home workouts so that they are done in 60 minutes. And so that's the first thing I'd say. You have to figure out how much time you've got. Moving away from that, if I'm talking about personal experience, we all have coaches, Yanni, Phil, Richard, myself. We learn from people. That's how you get better in life. So we coach people and we get coached ourselves. I currently work with a phenomenal coach who my workouts, I have to do 2 workouts a day, and the morning workout goes for about 2 hours, and then the afternoon workout goes for about 1 to 1.5 hours. Most people would hear that and just think, oh my God, how could you do that? But it's not high intensity work for the whole time. The morning routine there's a lot of movement training, which is, you might call it light mobility training. There's some handstands in there, and then it finishes with some, soft acrobatic movements that get my heart rate up, but they're certainly not, it's not like I'm, 1RMing or anything like that. Whereas my afternoon workout is strength training. It's straight up strength training. It's five sets of, however many reps, and you're going for it with calisthenics. Now, if I was to put both of those workouts together, then I've already done 2 hours of training before I get to my strength training, where you need to be able to produce maximal effort. And that would just be impossible. Like, by definition, you can't produce maximal effort if you're already fatigued. You have to be in a relatively fresh state. So for me, the way that I'm training, doing 2 sessions a day is really optimal. But I'm a coach. This is my life. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's important to me to continue to evolve and continue to get better and research things and learn from different people. So that's my life. If you're somebody who struggles to find an hour a day of training, then to ask the question, would it be better to split my workout into 2? You'd have to ask yourself, well, what would work better for your life? Would it be better for you to do 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon? I'd argue most people that I've trained, that wouldn't be better, purely because you might say in your mind, oh, this would work well, but it actually is really hard for most people to find. It doesn't even matter if it's 15 minutes or an hour, but to find a block of time in the morning and a block of time in the afternoon to train, for most people, that's just unrealistic.
Yeah, and this is where I want to go next, which is that, you know, there's so many variables that need to be taken into consideration. And the first one that you just spoke about then is time. How long have you been exercising for? Because for an absolute beginner, the intensity and volume that is required to give you the amount of stimulus you need to adapt positively, to have a positive adaptation to the exercise, because you can have both a positive or a negative adaptation to exercise, and Phil's going to talk about that in a moment, and the dosage and all that sort of thing. But for an absolute beginner, it's much less, and so I would say that it's much better for you to just do one workout. But then there's other variables that you need to take into consideration, and that is sort of what goal you're going for. You know, if you're doing a bodybuilding workout, or if you're doing a fat loss workout where it's just about displacing calories and disrupting your homeostasis and your metabolic system, then you want certain levels of accumulative fatigue. So breaking a workout up, you're going to lose that the accumulative fatigue benefit, which is, you know, how fatigued your body is at the end of the workout, how much it's going to disrupt your homeostasis, your metabolic system, and create EPOC, exercise post-oxygen consumption, where you're burning calories at a higher rate for the remainder of the day as your body settles down and recovers again. So there's all these little variables that take into consideration. With our program, believe it or not, the unified movement system, if you were to take it into like athletic development, it's probably not the optimal way to train, because we're actually hitting all different energy systems in the one workout. We're going for strength, we're going for cardiovascular adaptation, and we're going for flexibility adaptation. And, you know, there will be sports scientists out there that'll say, well, that's not the optimal way to train. You shouldn't combine those attributes in one workout, because they're asking the body to do different styles of things. But what we've found over the last 20 years of training people is that the biggest problem that we face is the fact that it's not about what we do in the hour that we're at the gym, or the 2 hours that it's everything else we're dealing with, everything else that comes up as competition for that workout, you know. And what we've found is focusing and optimizing efficiency is the number one key to most people getting a good result. And the proof is in the pudding. Our guys get at Unity Gym. I've traveled to a lot of gyms. I have a lot of colleagues, and I am yet to see a large cohort of their members achieve anything near what our members achieve. And I know that's big noting, and that might seem like, oh, you're full of yourself, but I'm serious. You know, like the majority of our guys get incredible results, and I don't believe it's because the formula is the best. You know, the fact that we train strength, flexibility, and fitness could be in one 60-minute workout efficiently could be argued that that's not the optimal way to train. But from an efficiency standpoint, and the fact that everybody gets a nice dose of everything consistently throughout the week, when you look at a 12-month period, it produces phenomenal results. So you've got to look at, okay, what am I trying to get the absolute best possible, squeeze the last 2% of performance and adaptation out of my workout? Am I an elite level athlete that needs that level of scrutiny in my workout? Or am I, just trying to get a really great result? Am I just trying to transform my body? Am I trying to get more flexible? I'm trying to, you know, what's your goal, you know? And then there's a lot of variables that come into play.
Yeah, that idea of optimal is an interesting one, because it's like optimal for what, and there can be something that is like optimal for that goal, but then if it's optimal for you actually being able to do it. That's the other thing. So yeah, like that's the biggest thing. And I've had issues in the past where I've tried to train really hard and split up days and like kind of overdone it and end up, you get injured and you're out for a couple of weeks and you're trying to do other things. But it's sort of idea that like sometimes people just try and think like, okay, can I just cram more in? Can I cram more in? And then you end up like, sure, getting some really fast progress in some of the areas you're after. But then if that then leads to now like a month or 6 weeks of having to recover from that or causing injuries because you've just acutely overloaded, then while that 2 week section might have been optimal that you were really pushing yourself, if you look at that if you zoom out, then yeah, certainly you can see how suboptimal that can quickly become. So yeah, it's just a really common one I see when working with particularly like physio patients from the Unity community, because it's more about like, how much can I fit in? Can I do more? And that just a lot of the time it's just like convincing people that it's okay to not constantly fill every spare waking hour, and that focusing on recovery might be the way you're going to get the gains, because people are just the motivation levels in a lot of the Unity members is just so high that you kind of have to just give them permission to not constantly be pushing.
Yeah. And if you do have the time in your week and you are somebody that is as dedicated to your training as I am, then training twice a day is a great thing to do. Personally, I wouldn't do it more than 5 days a week. Even on a Saturday, for example, try getting that past your wife, where you work like what I do, and then also say on Saturday I'm going to the gym first thing in the morning, and then I'm going to go again in the afternoon. Like you won't even have a marriage. But it's also, I find that like the weekend in general, no matter what it is that you do, for me personally, especially if you're training twice a day, Monday to Friday, you really want to remove things from your plate on the weekend. So on the weekend, I'll go in and do a longer training session in the morning, and then that'll be the end of it. And if you can legitimately dedicate that time and feel good about it, and not feel like you're always chasing your tail and it's a stress, and it's basic, because it's like you always say, feel like stress is like something that you add to a cup, and if that cup's overflowing, adding anything else to it, it just breaks down the system, and the system falls apart. And the system, I'm talking about your whole welfare, your mental state, your health, your emotional state, all of that. So if you can legitimately do that, then go for it and train twice a week and twice a day, and we can really help you to understand how you can use something like the UMS and anything that you want to do on top of that to get a great result. But be really, really honest with yourself. And if you try it for a month and you think, wow, this is just too much stress, you've really only got a couple of options. One, you can keep going the way you are and you'll break down eventually. Two, you can be really honest with yourself and remove some other things from your life so that you can fit this in. Maybe you didn't remove enough. And three, maybe you got to be honest with yourself and realize that training twice a day isn't the better thing for you.
Yeah, and it is certainly I've worked with a lot of professional bodybuilders, and it's kind of like a natural progression. It's like another principle that you can sort of manipulate, or variable that you can manipulate to progressively overload your body, going from one sort of hour or 90-minute workout, anywhere from 45 to 90-minute workout a day, to 2 60-minute workouts a day, is a really nice way to progress in volume, and it certainly does produce incredible results if you can do it. If I had the time and I had the luxury, I probably and I had the energy and motivation to do it, I'd probably go back to doing it. It's how I produced a lot of really good bodybuilding results through my 20s and maybe early 30s. And one of my favorite programs to do is a program that I adopted and learned from the late Charles Poliquin, which is his super accumulation or prescribed overreaching program, which is a 2-week program where you do 9 training sessions a week, but you only do it for 2 weeks, and you really absolutely overload your body, and then you take 5 days off, recover properly, eat correctly, and then come back, and you're usually bigger and stronger after that period if you've done it right. I love doing that once or twice a year, but everything has to align for you. You know, you have to have no injuries. You have to have all of your stress variables in your life really taken care of. You've got to be able to get enough sleep. You know, you've got to really, really do it properly. Otherwise, you just break. You break yourself. And training, you know, when I hung out with Ben Pekulski and we did our bodybuilding camps and stuff like that, it was always double day training. It was always come in the morning at about 8 o'clock. We did an hour, maybe even a 2-hour workout, including warm-ups and things like that. And then we had 6 hours off. And, you know, I remember it was hilarious lying around on the gym floor, just watching guys try to get a bit of sleep, try to eat, get your calories up. You know, they're loading massive amounts of supplements. And then we did another workout at roughly 2 or 3 in the afternoon for another 2 hours, you know. But we only ever did that for about a week or two. And then you were just like, it was like,
just wrecked.
Yeah, you were wrecked, you know. So, but like I remember watching a really great interview with Lane Norton, who was talking about some of the best results he ever yielded for his physique and his body when he was really into bodybuilding was moving to double day training. So, you know, it's like Rad said, if you've got the time, if you can do it, if you can fit it in for your lifestyle, it's certainly something to experiment with because it does yield great results, but you got to make sure you do it properly. You got to still be recovering properly because remember, you can have a negative adaptation to exercise if you get the dose wrong, you know. And I think that's probably something that it would be great to get your insight on the concept of dosing.
I'd not even call it a negative adaptation, but a negative response, because an adaptation is like sort of suggesting that you're putting in stimulus and you're becoming better at handling that stimulus. But yeah, certainly I talk a lot about the idea that exercise is medicine and you can overdose on that medicine. And that's where double day training can get a bit tricky, but it's like, I guess, to step back a bit and look at like 2 different ways that you could do it, and particularly in Helen's context of already doing the UMS online coaching, is like either you're kind of doing the same style of workout, so strength, flexibility, and fitness now twice a day, or you're splitting up those elements and doing strength at one time, some fitness at another time, and then, you know, maybe your mobility kind of attached to either one of those. But like, I think that's kind of practical ways to think about it. And if you were to do it, I'd say for most people in the UMS online coaching, the way to do it would be to split up the elements. So you have a time where you're doing strength specifically, a time where you're doing the fitness specifically. That gives you a chance to give really good stimulus to those particular type of muscle fibers, those energy systems, and then you're giving those same, like that adaptation, then time to respond, and then you can do your fitness at another time. And by that time, you've had plenty of time to recover. If you're fueling appropriately, then yeah, you could get a really great result by splitting it up in that way. But
the other benefit is that you like, and this is one of the things that Lane Norton was a big proponent on. You come in for that second session fresh. Yeah. Like your nervous system's had time to recover. Yeah. So where you'd usually carry accumulative fatigue into that second session, so all your supplementary lifts get hit better. Your load, your total load lifted usually increases, which is a great thing to get, you know. But it does just come down to, I guess, have you got the time?
But yeah, the idea of doing the same workout twice in a day like that doesn't make it
brutal.
As much sense to me. So like, because again, you really want to give that stimulus, and it's within the recovery. That's when you get your adaptations. That's when your body can decide on where the body is going to be sending this precious fuel and these resources to make appropriate adaptation. So yeah, you like kind of constantly hammering yourself with the same stuff just is not ideal.
Yeah,
I'd like to because the 3 of us at times have all done double day training for very different goals. Me with movement based goals, Yanni with muscle hypertrophy or strength goals, and Phil, you with sports goals like triathlon or things like that. So let's go around and I'll start and we'll just talk about what double day training looked like for us and how it worked for us and how you can do it for those who are listening and thinking. And the first one that I'll start with is for anybody who is a UMS member and who has our masterclasses. How can you do double day training and use it effectively? And what Phil said is one way to do it if you were wanting to split up your UMS fundamental workout. Another way to do it would be, because we have a lot of people that are in this boat, people want to be able to do a handstand and they have the handstand masterclass or the press to handstand masterclass. or they have the flexibility masterclass. They're probably the most common ones, or the 18-minute stretching routine. So if you had any of those masterclasses, the way that I would do it, and you could dedicate 2 training sessions, one in the morning, one in the evening, I would do a morning session where you work on the masterclass, and you might not do that every day. Like, for example, a press to handstand, you absolutely would not train that every day. 2 days a week maximum is enough. Whereas the handstand masterclass, as we periodize it, you can definitely get up to doing 5 or 6 days a week doing that. It's a different way of training. And the flexibility masterclass, you can absolutely do 5 or 6 days a week of training. So to do one of those in the morning, because each of those, if you're not really rushed, you could easily do a 45 to an hour workout, 45 minutes to an hour on just that masterclass. Then have your 6 hours, 8 hours break, and then do the UMS fundamental workout, which is basically the home workouts or the gym workouts.
Yeah, I suppose you've just brought up a really good point there, and I should have clarified. So when I was talking there about the interference effects of strength, flexibility, and fitness, but skills is a whole nother beast, and I've talked about it quite a lot, that frequency is the biggest factor in skill development. And if you can be spreading out your exposure to skill practice and balance practice, and that's going to be a really effective way of progressing quickly. So yeah, you can definitely be throwing those in a few times a day, and like greasing the groove is a type of training that we've talked about a bit before, and Rad has done quite a lot for skill development, which is
which is why for me, the way that my training looks, so if you want to know what does 2 hours of training in the morning look like and 1 to 1.5 hours in the afternoon, my training is really, it's like a combination. It's like if you knew the UMS inside out like I do, it's like a way of combining all of it into a day. Because what I do in the morning, my morning starts with about 20 minutes of spine mobility. So it's everything that you would learn from the spine mobility masterclass, but from somebody that's been practicing it for 5 years. So I do all of these, really cool spine mobility drills, and I do a lot of it. I do 20 minutes of it. And then I move into wrist prep, a bunch of hanging. So I do hanging every day, and I probably do an accumulated total of between like 4 and 7 minutes of hanging. And I pair hanging with mobility drills, like just squat warm-up routines and rotational drills and things like that. And then I move into handstand training. And then I finish, after my 5 sets of handstands, I finish with my skill-specific, like acrobatic type stuff. So things like the animal flow that we teach in one of the home workout phases. And that's my whole morning routine. So that whole thing is, it like the first hour is, I'm not barely even breaking a sweat. It's just working up to my movement training at the end. And then I finish that, have a long break. And then in my afternoon session, it's just a straight up strength and flexibility workout. So I'm doing exactly like what we do in the UMS, where I'm doing a set of strength training for my upper body and then a set of flexibility training for my lower body, or vice versa. And I'll do an A1 and A2, just like in the UMS. And then I'll do a couple of supplementaries for shoulder conditioning or whatever the body part that I'm training is. So that's what my double day training looks like. And then on Saturday, I do a reduced workload where I condense it all into one, but it's basically like doing the morning and evening all in one, but less of everything. What has double day and my goal, the reason why I do that is because I want the UMS promise, which is I want to be strong, flexible, and fit. And I express my strength and my skill through calisthenics and movement mastery. That's my way of measuring and benchmarking how I'm getting better, which is why I train the way that I do.
Yeah, so I've done 4 variations of double day training, and I'll work up to what I'm doing currently. The first one was when I was my primary goal was to build lean muscle mass, and I did 2 variations. One was the prescribed overreaching program that I talked about earlier, which is a very, very intense session in the morning, followed by a very, very intense session in the evening. But you only do it every second day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you only do 1 session. But it's that specific program, and it's the only time I train body composition is whole body training. So that means that you're doing squats, hamstring, and upper body push-pull in each workout. That's a quite unique way of training. I would only usually train that for someone, that style of training, when they're trying to lose weight or if they're an absolute beginner, like in our 28-day Kickstart program. Then I did a variation that I learned from Lane Norton, which was intense, same body part, morning and evening. So it might be a squat session where in the morning you do your 5x5 and in the evening you do 4 sets of 12. So it's different volumes. So you get your really high intense work done early in the day, then you have 6 hours recovery, and then you come back and absolutely demolish those body parts with higher volume, lower intensity exercise. And then we did our initial UMS was strength in the morning, flexibility in the evening, and that produced really good results. But you had to spend a lot of time warming up in the afternoon, because after doing all your strength lifts in the morning, it was you were very stiff by the afternoon, and it took a while for your body to sort of go, oh, okay, I'm ready to start stretching and doing flexibility training. So I don't know if I recommend
That's
it.
why I now do strength in the evening. I find it works better the other way around. Yeah.
And what I'm currently doing now is probably, it depends whether I've got the kids or not. When I don't have the kids, every morning starts with a aerobic cardio, which is usually either a walk or a walk with like enough of a run that it doesn't interfere with my strength training, because I do my strength training usually about 3 hours later, and it can't be intense enough cardio that I come in and I'm unable to do my strength and flexibility training. So my unified movement system workout. So it's a 45-minute cardio session in the morning, and that usually is at about 6 o'clock, 5:15 to about 6:30, and then I usually train around 10 or so o'clock and do the strength and flexibility training. So, and that's working really well. The key is that the cardio in the morning is gentle enough that it doesn't interfere with the strength, but it's enough to get my heart rate up into a nice fat burning zone, and it usually, I try to get it. I try to peak it at about 145 beats. My resting heart rate's about 45 beats per minute, so 145 is quite high for me, and then it averages at about 110 beats per minute for 45 minutes. And that goes well.
Yeah, I love it. Mine's on a very sort of fitness, like triathlon specific sort of program at the moment. So it's quite different to what I've done typically in the past when I've been training for sport specific stuff like ultimate frisbee and beach volleyball. And then I was doing kind of powerlifting, sort of done double day training there as well. But to give a sort of like endurance sport perspective, it sort of involves like three, because you're trying to train for 3 sports at once. You've got 3 swim sessions at least a week. You've got 2 brick sessions, and this is where you're doing a cycle straight into a run. So by the time you get into the race, if you haven't practiced that, you feel like you're a giraffe on a bicycle trying to like run after you get off an endurance bike session, because you're doing, for a half Ironman, it's 90-kilometer cycle into a half marathon. So after already doing the swim as well, so you really need to be conditioned to that transition, because it's,
I can't think of anything worse.
and then so you're training for, and then you'll have some standalone. So those post bike runs will be very kind of steady state tempo work, whereas then you'll have like some slow, very easy running and some interval sort of training sessions as well. So there's quite a few different types of stimulus, and I won't go into all the nitty gritty details, but the basic sort of thing to think about is you don't want to, like, I'm trying to not get too much interference between the strength work and to stop my fitness training. So I'm generally trying to put my strength days on the swim days, so I can, like, they're generally a bit less brutal on the body, though I did do a speed test on Monday, which was it was horrible. So horrible.
And why are you doing all this again?
I think I love it. But yeah, it's so trying to split it up as much as possible within the day as well. So doing a morning session, then because the strength is currently more at a maintenance level rather than a strength building phase for me at the moment, I'm trying to get my cardio in the morning when I'm really fresh. And then if I'm fitting in some, I either alternate between doing strength or mobility in the sort of later part of the day. But again, because I am pushing myself on that endurance side of things, I just can't be also pushing myself in the strength side.
Yeah. And that is a really important thing to highlight. It is very hard to push yourself at the same high level in multiple different, energy systems, even if you're doing double day training. Yeah. And I do think it's quite important, unless you do a very short sprint like what you described, it's really important to kind of make that clarification of which one you want to see the biggest gains in.
Yeah. Yeah. I should clarify. When I go for a run in the morning, it's 5Ks. It's really not very long, far,
And just to kind of, because I love the UMS and the way that it gives sort of like that structure, but for me, I can't do something that does strength, flexibility, and fitness after I've already done all of that sort of intensive endurance work in the morning. But I definitely use the framework of how the strength is balanced. So, like doing the upper body push pull days, I'm not doing full body sort of strength stuff so much. And then I'm still using the like a lot of the same mobility work as in the evening / afternoon of my my running and cycling. But yeah, I'm not doing it as a whole extra workout on top of doing that, because I've got to realize, like, okay, how much have I filled my endurance bucket, and how much have I filled my strength bucket, and how much have I filled my mobility bucket, and you can't just be filling them all the time. So yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, look, and the last little bit that Helen did ask is there an optimum workout length? And I hope by now you guys will probably be able to put that together and answer it for yourself, which is that there's just too many variables to take into consideration for us to say that. You could argue that if you're going for muscular hypertrophy or strength, muscular hypertrophy, I would say you could argue that 45 minutes to 60 minutes, if you're training at a really high intensity, you're going to be pretty cooked after that for most people, unless like you'll see professional bodybuilders doing 2-3 hour hypertrophy workouts, but you've got to understand that they're not running on natural fuel. You know, most of them are running on exogenous hormones and things like that, which does make it easier it really makes it easier to be able to do that. So take that into consideration. I remember when I did the PICP certification with Charles Poliquin, he said 45 minutes to 60 minutes, if you're getting the intensity right, is plenty. You'll start to see a massive decline in ability. And he used to say the moment that your strength drops by about 10%, that's it. The workout for at least that body part is done. As you become more conditioned and more adept and you're mixing more in, then that can increase, like Rad's workouts. But it really comes down to the intensity that you're working at and also your training age, you know, where you're at. And then the last big variable is, what are your goals? You know, if your goals are just to displace calories, then usually the more the better. But it all sort of varies.
Yeah, just remember that an optimal program that you're not doing is not optimal. Is not optimal.
That's exactly right. Any workout is better than no workout.
I love that.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's all we got time for. Remember, if you would like to connect with Phil outside of the podcast, Phil can be found on Instagram at ADPT Physio. You can also book in for an in-person or online session with Phil at adpt.physio.physio. Thank you for joining us.
Always love it.
Thanks, Rad.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks,
See
Richie.
you in the next episode, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, then you're serious about getting strong, flexible, and fit, which means you need to check out the Unify Movement System. UMS is strength and flexibility training reinvented into one highly efficient and effective 60-minute workout. Whether you want better physical performance or a leaner physique, our UMS app will get you there faster. Just click this link right here to learn more or go to unitygym.com. I'm looking forward to meeting you inside. Oh, and before you go, please hit the like and subscribe buttons to support our channel so we can continue creating content like this for you.